A lot of Spaniards and French whites there, like pale whites, and some Irish. And they're still considered Hispanic. These people are whiter than this, and they still consider Hispanic just because they have a Hispanic last name. You are not a white guy. Sure. You know what? I'm African, I guess.
Nationalism. What happens to Jews, Muslims, Hindus, atheists? I mean, what happens to those people if the identity of the...
So an African American can be 30% black. He can consider himself African, but you are 60+% white. You're still not white. Okay, I got it, bro. You got me, man.
The United States is to be a Christian nationalist country. Then where does that leave people who don't identify as Christian nationalists?
Yeah, same thing that happens when you have state religions in nations right now. Nothing. So there's Western nations, people forget about this, that have churches. They actually have the church of whatever the nation is. And guess what? You're still free to pray how you want. Guess what? Here in the United States, when it's 95% Christian, identified 95% as Christian, you can still be a Jew. You can still be a Muslim.
They're under siege, right? They're persecuted, right?
That would be a bonus in our favor that we're not doing the persecuting, doofus. So the thing is, it's so funny here. It's like even when we have full spectrum,
Puerto Ricans are mixed, and we tell you don't look European like me. Yo, sure, man. Hey, man, good for you, bro. Puerto Ricans are mixed, and we tell you, bro, sure, no problem. You, I guess you're one of these people that say Spain is not Europe. Yeah, Italians are not Europeans. Got it, bro. Got it.
Jesus called people vipers like you. Even when we have full spectrum dominance in culture.
He was calling out the conservative religious bosses when he did that, my friend.
We are far better and leadership capacities than secular atheists are. Guys like this, their entire
you should be in power, right?
The entire
power for the Christian, yes, power above others.
The crux of what you want is just gay sex, right? Isn't that really what your criticism is?
No, sir. You're lying about me because the argument makes you uncomfortable.
What are you upset?
No, sir.
What are you upset about cultural Christians for? What are you actually upset about here?
If
Christians are in power,
to follow the
what do you
teachings
think's
of
going to
Christ.
happen to you? What do you think's going to happen to you if Christians are in power? What?
I think that the Founding Fathers were very specific more than once and said in the Treaty of Tripoli, ratified by Washington, signed by Adams, the government of the United States is in no way founded on the Christian religion. I don't consider your movement to be of Christ, my friend. I don't consider your movement to be of Christ.
Okay, if everyone talks at the same time, I can promise you. Hang on.
Trump's trying to ban an entire religion from entering the country, my friend.
They should. They should have no problem with that, because the people that are just coming in, which are the Muslim, basically, they're not. If they take power, we already saw in Dearborn, Michigan. I mean, these people got power, and there were some Christian trying to just say, you know what, it's not okay what you guys do, and the guys say like, you get out, you're Islamophobe. And you know what these people did? The Christians did nothing. They have to just let it go. Like, we have to be real about these things, guys.
If everyone talks at the same time, I can guarantee you one thing: nobody can understand.
Terrorists from entering the country.
No one will understand what anyone says if you all talk over each other. Please, guys, if you talk over each other, no one can hear a word you're all saying. Isabel.
The Founding Fathers were actually quite clear that you were expected to understand a working knowledge of submission to God in order to be an active participant in governance in the United States. Of the 13 original states, all of them, every single original state constitution of the 13 states required a declaration of faith to serve in the state government. 9 of them required you to have a declaration of faith as a Christian to serve in the state government. The Declaration
of Independence. And yet the U.S. Constitution forbids it.
Our relationship to God.
It refers it to the 10th Amendment. Have you heard of the 10th Amendment?
And they had a better
The First Amendment forbids a religious test.
All right, let Isabel finish her point, then I'll come to the other.
In fact, the book of Deuteronomy is the most quoted book in America's founding documents by leaps and bounds, more than any secular text. So the very foundation of the United States of America was indeed to be one nation under God, a Christian nation.
But the Founding Fathers also wanted to have a separate... Hang on. The Founding Fathers also wanted to have a clear separation between church and state for the United States, didn't they?
Not really. They
okay, well, that's interesting. So, Andrew, am I not right in assuming that, Andrew?
You're not right in assuming that. They didn't want an establishment clause at the federal level for a national religion.
Yeah.
States were allowed to have their own religions, and they did. They did have their own religions. She's absolutely right. You couldn't vote in many of the states unless you declared that you were part of the faithful. Like, this is just all revisionist history. We have the 10th Amendment, which says...
And you know what's crazy? That's an atheist argument as well. Separation of church and state. And again, we come down to something even deeper, the power of force. If any other groups and religions take power in the United States, believe me, they're not going to be using this thing called the Constitution.
That if these powers are not given to the United States government, they go to the prospective states. The states had their own religious institutions. Mr. Viper over here is a complete liar, always has been. And his book, he's full of
this
it.
guy.
The concept of the separation of church and state in our founding documents.
The same name Jesus said.
It's
not hard to say,
Bill of
Andrew. It's not very
This is
Christian. It's not very Christian to keep hurling personal insults at
Bro, we don't want to hear that.
another person on the panel, is it?
Well, then
I can
take it
take
up
it.
with Jesus. He
I
called
can
guys
take it.
like this.
I don't remember
vipers too.
Jesus saying, "Thou shalt go
He
out and
called
call everyone
conservative
you don't
Christian
like a
bosses
doofus."
vipers.
He did.
I
He
do
called
think
them vipers all the time. I don't know what to tell you. He did.
And he called conservative religious authorities those words.
The people who are trying to utilize rigorism against Christians, it would be exactly who Christ would call
No,
vipers.
I'm using
Pierce.
Jesus against
All
hypocrites.
right, let me
I'm
ask
using
John.
Jesus against
All right,
hypocrites.
John, hang on. Don't all talk at the same time, please. John, let me ask you this. You believe that Christian nationalism is against the American Constitution. Why?
Because the founders were very specific about not wanting to have an official state religion. Our official religion is all and or none. The problem is the movement of Christian nationalism is as against the Bill of Rights as they are against the actual teachings of Jesus, which is why you will never see our right-wing friends fighting to put any Jesus quotes on any buildings. Jesus never mentions abortion. God asserts that a fetus is property in Exodus 21, that a woman's life has more value in his eye. God gives abortion.
That's true, bro. This dude is basically a Bible twister. This dude is basically a Bible twister. And he said, I'm not a Democrat, but when the Democratic candidate Kamala Harris was running, he was just simply supporting him. He wants to be in this position where you can never just lock him in. He want to be a spectrum, I guess, just floating around with a lot of different things.
Tips for pregnant unfaithful wives in Numbers chapter 5. It's why abortion's not banned in Jesus' religion. And that's why God and Jesus and Moses and Paul and the prophets never once condemn ending pregnancies or say what the penalty for ending a pregnancy should be. Am I saying Jesus was pro-abortion? No. What I'm saying is for 45 years in my country, peers, right-wing Christians have been groomed to prioritize something Christ never talked about and then vote against all the things he actually commanded. Jesus was against the death penalty more than once, not a fan of killing the sinner, never mentioned abortion, and yet you can't run for office as a Republican unless you want to criminalize abortion, have the government force citizens to be pregnant against their will, pretend that comes from Jesus, and also think Jesus was wrong.
What's wrong with that? What's wrong with that? Protecting baby? Now we're discussing whether or not protecting babies is okay. Oh my God. It's just crazy at this point.
About not executing people.
Isabel, I get the feeling you don't entirely agree.
No, not one iota of me agrees with that statement, Piers, and nor should
Where does
any
the Bible
good
ban it?
thing in Scripture. It starts with a very simple commandment in the 10 Commandments: "Thou shalt not murder." Let's take off our Catholic hats for a
Judaism
second.
does not consider a fetus to be a full life. Abortions are legal and free in Israel right now.
In biomedical sciences, and science is unequivocally clear that human life begins at conception. There is a genetically unique individual
The Bible
who has never
disagrees.
existed before and will never exist again, that is a living organism. And if that species is in fact a human being, which it is, it should be required that we give that person the same dignity, respect, and human rights of any other person on earth. This is this toxic empathy twisting concept of the American church that has been hijacked by left-wing politics, where you can look at a human being waving at you on an ultrasound, just like my daughter did at 11 weeks old, where I could count every single bone in her hand.
No, see, anti-YouTube trad. I loved your nickname. Don't get me wrong, anti-YouTube trad. I love your nickname, but now you're trolling. No such thing as a right-wing or left-wing Christianity. There are. There's the woke wing, and you can see them right here in Appleton all over with a little rainbow flag. Yeah, there are.
As did my son.
tell you that the death penalty should be outlawed from society because human beings should have rights and dignity.
Said that.
Also look at a baby and tell you that that child is worthy of literal human sacrifice. It is disgusting to me.
Okay, Andrew.
And I'm just saying that the Bible never bans it. Jesus bans the death penalty. This is a movement that doesn't fight for the stuff Jesus talks about. They fight for the stuff conservative Christians prioritize.
I mean,
okay, let me bring Andrew.
Executions, yes.
Let me bring Andrew in here. Andrew.
Yeah, so the thing is funny is like he keeps on citing Israel as though that has not become a much more secular nation. There are Orthodox Jews who fight over abortion all the time.
Religion.
All the time, Orthodox Jews fight over abortion because of the idea of ensoulment, sir. And what does your Catholic dogma say about ensoulment? What does it say? You're a Catholic dogma. You, the self-described Catholic, what does your dogma say about the ensoulment of a fetus? Can you tell me?
I was raised Catholic, sir, but my church is against the teachings of Christ on many areas.
Answer my question. What is the dogma? What is the dogma of the Catholic Church, which you described yourself as a progressive Catholic?
The Catholic Church says conception. The Bible says first breath. My point here is that the Bible does not ban it.
Catholic who
Y'all
doesn't
have
believe in your dogma.
prioritized something the Bible never forbids, and you vote and legislate against the stuff Christ actually talked about.
So let me get this right. You're a progressive. You're a progressive Catholic that doesn't believe in your own dogma.
Andrew,
is that right? You don't believe in your own dogma?
I don't really know if the Pope would consider me a Catholic anymore. No, I think the church is wrong about a lot of things, Andrew. Some of us go beyond
progressive Catholic.
Because that's how I was raised. Let me ask you a question.
Catholic.
Andrew.
Because you were trying to give credibility to a Democrat. That's why.
Andrew, does God knowingly ensoul fetuses that he knows are going to be aborted?
According to Catholic dogma, yes.
So God puts a soul in a baby that he knows is going to be. So God puts a soul in a baby that he knows will be aborted.
Do you realize that by your logic, you would be denying the omnipotence of God, that God does not know you're going to die before you die? Do you believe that? You just said Jesus Christ is God.
I'm not denying that at all. I'm asking you, does God put a soul? Does God put a soul in a fetus?
Come on, Pierre. Let it have it. The dude is getting. Look at me, uncomfortable side to side. He's getting uncomfortable. Hang on.
I want to ask John a question, just to round things off here, because we mentioned Charlie Kirk a lot. I watched a lot of the Charlie Kirk service, and I found a lot of it profoundly moving, I have to say. Not least of all, the crowd.
Well, I think you have a point, and to you to trust. See, he's not a Christian. No such thing as left-wing or right-wing Christians. I think you have he is a Christian. Well, he's a self-proclaimed Christian. You're right. I think what really that's a good point. What is a Christian, right? Because I can say I'm a Christian, but I don't practice Christianity. Does that make me a Christian? I think you have a good point there.
Of themselves. I did not get the feeling I was at some, full-on political rally. Trump did what Trump does, and he obviously made some of it political. But actually, most of the speakers, as I think Isabel said, really talked up other things that Charlie Kirk stood for. But the overriding feeling I got was of a religious ceremony here, paying tribute to somebody who, at the forefront of everything he stood for, was his Christian faith. And the one thing I can absolutely guarantee, as a consequence of the brutal murder of Charlie Kirk.
Good point, Matt. I think you have a great point there. I will agree that maybe there isn't left or right Christianity, but there is a correct or incorrect way to interpret the scripture. Yep, I think that's a good point as well.
Is that I think there will be a definite increase in the number of young people identifying as Christians, and they will probably identify as Christian conservatives. I mean, that, John, I think is almost an inevitable consequence of what happened. What do you think?
I don't care what they call themselves. I wish Christians would follow, believe in, and fight for the things Jesus actually talked about, as opposed to the things conservative Christians have been groomed to fight for and prioritize, which often have nothing to do with the teachings of Christ. There is no Jesus-based defense of Donald Trump support. You look at immigration alone, you have to reject God of the entire Old Testament, who commanded us to treat the alien as one of our own. You have to reject Jesus, who said that the way you treat the immigrant is the way you treat him. I need someone to explain to me why Donald Trump's right and God and Jesus are wrong. I don't
Great.
care how
I'll
people
explain it.
identify.
Okay, I think
love
Andrew-
many
I think
conservative
Andrew wants to
Christians, and I'm
explain
not
that.
talking about the
Yeah, I'll
conservatives.
explain it.
Talking
Okay,
about
hang
the
on.
right
It's the
wingers.
same.
All right, hang on,
It's the
Andrew,
same
explain
exact
that.
logic. Yeah, it's the same exact logic that he used when he was raising money for Kamala Harris, who said we have to have secure borders, told Guatemalans can't come into the nation, and said, quote, I did this now as justification because otherwise I would look like a hypocrite, because she was the lesser of two evils. We can use the exact same argument.
Yeah.
The exact same argument. It's the lesser of two evils to have a wide open border where human trafficking can occur.
No one called for a wide open border.
Drugs can come
No
over.
one
Yes, they
called for
did.
that.
Wait
You're
a
bearing
second.
false
Yo,
witness.
they did. They literally just did. California, Oregon, New York State, they'll all run with the policy century state. It's an open border policy.
You did. You said the religious refugees. We should look at them as religious refugees and just be
Oh,
totally
Jesus
accepting.
calls for an open border,
That's
yes.
what you said
Jesus
we should
called
do
for
and
an
how
open
Christians
border.
should behave.
God
This is
called
why
for
we
an
can't
open
listen
border.
to you.
And Ronald
This is
Reagan
why
called for an
we
open
can't
border and
listen to
amnesty.
you. Because, sir, you're a hypocrite.
I haven't
The very
called for
thing you
that.
accuse us
No,
of,
I'm not.
you yourself did.
Why is
You
Jesus
raised
wrong
money
about the
for
border,
Kamala
Andrew?
Harris, who had the same,
Why
who had
is
the same
Jesus
crackdown
wrong?
border policies.
Dude, she was going to hurt less people, and it's been proven, by the
No,
way.
she
There's
would have
several
hurt
thousand
more
folks
people with
overseas
human
that
trafficking.
would be alive
something
if
about,
USA...
hang on.
The USAID
hang
cuts
on,
alone with it.
hang on.
She would have hurt
You know the
more
thing about the
people with
border,
human
which makes
trafficking.
the thing about the border debate, which makes me laugh. Today, 2 clips have gone viral on X. And it's of Bill Clinton and Hillary Clinton both talking about the southern border in a way that today...
Have you guys listened to some of this old Democrat talking point regarding immigration? Oh my God, bro. They sound worse than Trump, man. They sound much worse than Trump.
Today, the woke left would describe...
Yeah, you can love immigrant, but you have to stay over there in your country. Does that make sense? I love you as an immigrant, but stay there in your country. Nothing wrong with that. Nothing wrong
as
with that.
speaking in a fascist way about illegal immigrants. And that just shows me there's a lot of
The left called them
hypocrisy.
that back in the 90s, Piers.
A lot of
The
hypocrisy
left
on
called
all
them
sides,
fascists
but
back in the 90s.
it certainly used to be the norm for Democrat
elected
leaders to talk in a way that they now pretend is talking like a fascist, which doesn't
And
reflect...
Ronald Reagan called for amnesty and open borders, Piers. It's
It was a mistake. Hey, just give it to him. It was a huge mistake.
Ronald Reagan also
said
said a country without a strong border is not a country.
He didn't call for open borders.
But Ronald
what are you
Reagan
talking
gave
about?
He did call for
That's
open borders.
amnesty,
Ronald
is
Reagan's
not
argument
open
was, let
borders.
him
No,
come
he
over here
didn't.
and work.
He didn't
Reagan
call for
also
open-
said
it's not
if there's open borders,
What?
Piers, you're listening. Your viewers can
Reagan
Google this. Reagan said when they're done working here, they can go back home.
John, Reagan literally said,
That's not
if a
open
country
borders,
doesn't have a
dude.
strong border, it's not a country, right?
Yes.
That is not
Reagan
open
used the
borders.
term,
Yo, he's
and
getting
Reagan
on
gave
badly.
amnesty
Whoa.
to millions. My question is, why is Donald Trump right and God and Jesus are wrong?
Well, if you ask...
Get the hell out of that bullshit, bro. Bro, this is his mantra in this debate. This is where he wanna just stay. He doesn't wanna just go through each statement and just going back and forward into a debate. That's why he overtalk. He doesn't really want to get into that debate. He doesn't want to, guys.
Kamala, why is Kamala right and God and Jesus are wrong?
No,
Why?
you're not answering the question, Andrew. Why are God and Jesus wrong on abortion?
First of all,
I'm not a Democrat, bro. It's not going to hurt me.
Abortion is very, very clearly outlined in both Catholic Church and Orthodox
All right, let's
Church
not get
as
back into
being
that.
murder.
Let's not get
back into
Bad news for you.
Yeah, I think you have a good point, Matt. I think that, to be honest, there's a big risk to interpret Jesus saying he fulfilled the law, as meaning we don't have to follow any of the, because then we can ignore morals like Ten Commandments. Yeah, hey, Ten Commandments is the best. I think the Ten Commandments is the best way to just run a Christian society. I think you put a Ten Commandment, this is a starting point to just run a Christian society. At some point, I want all 50 states to have their Ten Commandment as a starting point of how they base the laws. Otherwise, none of this will make sense. All the religions, all the cultures can come in and just basically just change everything.
On the abortion debate, I want to end, Isabel, by asking you, when you saw Erica Kirk and her address at her husband's memorial, I mean, I got a sense of somebody feeling a very, very strong conviction to take over from him and becoming almost immediately an incredibly powerful advocate, actually, for the Christian conservative right.
I think